Hello everyone, it's Anton on the go here, and I'm currently at Pearson International Airport here in Toronto. And welcome, as I literally journey across the globe in search for the most beloved woman in history. She came to fame as a young Jewish teenage mother and is revered and loved not only by Catholics, but also by non-believers and those from different religions alike. As the woman who nursed and brought up the Son of God, she taught him how to walk, prompted him to perform his first miracle, and stood by him until the very end. Several publications such as National Geographic and Time have hailed her as the most powerful woman in the world. Regardless of race, color, or creed, whatever name we invoke her, her love is for all as she watches over us and intercedes on our behalf. And even though it has been a little over 2,000 years, she's more alive than ever today. This woman is no other than the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, and our Mother. In the last segments, I traveled across Egypt, Paris, and Japan. But for this season, as 2025 marks the Jubilee year, come and join me as I travel mainly to Italy and to the French Alps. So come and join me as I journey to some of the many places where the Blessed Virgin has touched the lives of many. From the bustling streets of Rome, where Our Lady could be found in every street corner, to the French Alps where she wept and emphasized the power of words. From sworn enemies of the Church to one man's dream which translated to a permanent legacy which can still be seen today. From a cheap plaque in a rundown Sicilian neighborhood to processions in St. Peter's Square. So join me as I go in search for the Virgin Mary. It is usually said that when either Jesus or the Blessed Virgin Mary appear to a person or to a group of people, it is because these are favored chosen ones who have led good, faithful, pious lives, where even some of these visionaries, as they are often called, have become canonized saints, such as Juan Diego of Guadalupe, Margaret Mary Alacoque, Catherine Labouré, Bernadette of Lourdes, the Children of Fatima, and Sister Faustina Kowalska. However, as the history of the Church has shown, the Lord and His Blessed Mother doesn't only choose the righteous, the upright, and the faithful to spread the gospel message of love. The God of the unexpected acts outside of predictable human expectations and is the source of surprising and miraculous interventions. Such is the case of the great Saint Paul, who was a Jewish Pharisee and a Roman, and prior to his conversion, he zealously persecuted Christians until Christ appeared to him on the road to Damascus, instructing him to spread the gospel. And as we know today, Paul is one of the greatest followers of Jesus, who was responsible for the spread of Christianity and earned him the title of Apostle to the Gentiles. In His merciful and mysterious ways, God chooses such people to magnify His glory, demonstrating that His power is made perfect in weakness, and that His kingdom includes all, regardless of social standing and background. And so it is the same with the Blessed Mother herself, where she doesn't only solely come for her faithful children, but through her maternal concern, gentleness, and love, and as the reconciler of sinners, calls those who have gone astray, inviting them back to the sheepfold, emphasizing her desire that every single person return to her Son, Jesus. In the eternal city of Rome, there are two such places where our Blessed Mother has graced her powerful motherly presence to two unsuspecting souls from different time periods. Two men who not only led worldly lives, but had a seething hatred for the Catholic faith, to the point where they would have done anything and everything to destroy the Church and its reputation. Come with me now as I continue my journey and pilgrimage to some of the Marian sites to Our Lady in Rome, the city of Mary. One of Rome's most iconic and popular tourist destinations is the Piazza di Spagna, which draws crowds of tourists throughout the year. The Spanish steps leading to the Church of Trinita dei Monti are considered among the most beautiful spots in the Eternal City to snap photos and to simply take in the beautiful views of the city at the very top. There are many shops and restaurants in the immediate vicinity, as well as the Vatican offices for the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. Not many are familiar, however, that this very piazza is home to several important Marian shrines and monuments, such as the Column of the Immaculate Conception and the miraculous image of Mater Admirabilis, to name just a few. And if you want to learn more about these beautiful Marian images and their background stories, check out my previous vlog here on my channel. For today's vlog, however, I want to focus on another important Marian shrine within the vicinity of Piazza di Spagna, and I purposely singled this one out in particular because of its profound relevance. Just around the corner and approximately a 4-minute walk from the Spanish Steps is the rather unpretentious church, by Roman standards at least, of San Andrea del Frate, or Saint Andrew of the Thickets. It was built in the 17th century and replaced an earlier church built in the 12th century in what was then a wooded countryside close to medieval Rome. It's no doubt a beautiful church, but if you have visited Rome and seen the more popular churches like St. Peter's Basilica or Santa Maria Maggiore, this one is almost like any other church in Rome and doesn't really stand out architecturally. It can be easy to miss by the average person, especially if one doesn't know what had transpired inside here. Upon entering this church, one becomes a little disoriented because the pews don't face the main altar, but rather a side altar. Why is this so? Before we get into the heart of the story, let me take you to Paris and France to the chapel of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal in Rue du Bac Street. Because it was here on July and November of 1830 where the Blessed Mother appeared to a young novice named Catherine Labouré and entrusted her with having a medal struck, emphasizing that those who wear this medal, especially around the neck, would receive special graces. There was initial skepticism, but after much prompting from Sister Catherine, the medals were made with the approval of the bishop and was initially known as the Medal of the Immaculate Conception. To put a note here, this was 24 years before the dogma of the Immaculate Conception was proclaimed an article of faith in 1854. Because of the many miracles attributed to Our Lady and the medal, it soon became known as the Miraculous Medal, and this name has become associated with it even to this day. Initially, the Miraculous Medal's popularity was mainly concentrated within France. But something extraordinary occurred during the winter of 1842 that brought the attention to the Miraculous Medal in the secular world and resulted in Rome officially recognizing the medal. This event would become one of the most famous miracles associated with the miraculous medal. The Blessed Mother kept true to her promise of her powerful intercession to those who kept and wore her medal. Going back to our main narrative, the recipient to this special grace centered on a 28-year-old man named Alphonse Ratisbonne, a wealthy Jewish lawyer and businessman who came from a banking family in France. Alphonse was an agnostic Jew and a man of the world. He had a seething hatred for Catholicism and the Church, which he felt had brutally persecuted the Jews over the centuries. And when his older brother left Judaism to become a Catholic priest, this only fanned Alphonse's anger and resulted in him cutting ties with his brother.
I'm Father Giacomo Dorta. I'm here the parish priest of this parish of Sant'Andrea delle Fratte.
It's such a pleasure to be here, as Father said, at the Basilica of Sant'Andrea del Frate, but the church is also known as the Santuario of Our Lady of the Miracle, because an approved Marian apparition occurred here a little bit over, not a little bit, but over 100 years ago. So it's still fairly recent, give or take. And Father Giacomo here will share us the story of this powerful encounter of the Blessed Mother with a Jewish agnostic who converted. And this story is tied with the miraculous medal.
Firstly, we should know who Alphonse Ratisbonne was. Actually, as you said, he was a Jew, and he was a very rich man, and he was born into a very important family in France. They were bankers, even if he decided to study law in order to become a lawyer. But he wasn't not a believer, and he was against all kind of religion, and especially Catholicism, because his brother converted to it. And this was seen as, I would say, a shame for his family. So Alphonse really hated him for converting into Catholicism, and Alphonse really took it personal. And Alphonse decided to avoid all kind of, I would say, approach to religion, and that was really important for him. And so he still was living without thinking about God, and that is interesting for us, because this allows us to explain something about a person who I would normally think that could meet the Virgin Mary herself. And I would say this is important to point out. And so actually he was a young man, because he also his projects for his life. He was supposed to marry a girl named Flora, but as we can see, things will change dramatically.
The brother became a priest, right?
Yes, he became a Jesuit.
Yeah.
And that's why he really saw even priesthood as something ridiculous. Alphonse had a strong hate about all this, and the figure of his brother took him away from religion itself.
Were there other influences on Alphonse that really made him like an agnostic and non-believer during his young life?
Yeah, when his brother, Theodore, when his brother wanted to baptize a child, and this was a little bit, I would say, important for Alphonse, who saw this behavior like something very inappropriate. And this was important for him. People who know his story know that Alphonse was very, very touched negatively by this episode.
What brought him to Rome?
Yeah, there are many, many peculiar circumstances, actually. As I said, he was supposed to marry a girl named Flora, but because Flora was still too young, and her parents couldn't give her to Alphonse, and he had to wait. But he really, I would say, agreed with this marriage. But they say, okay, we're gonna do that, but firstly, just make a trip think something else and try to visit some important cities. He started traveling and he came to Naples because when he was in Naples, he entered into a church, the main church probably in Naples, and he had a personal strong experience of God without exactly knowing what was happening. So he lost his ship, many things occurred, and mysteriously, without knowing why, he came to Rome. And that was a thing that he really didn't want to do because he hated Catholicism so much that he said, I'll never make my feet into the city of the Pope.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that's incredible because normally we should think that the art, the beauty of the city should lure him here. But since he hated Catholicism so much. I never be next to the Pope in some ways.
Yeah.
But at the very end, he did it.
And because I think I read somewhere that he missed his train or like something.
Yes, his ship, and he had some, I would say, this is Providence actually, but very strange episodes like this. He lost his ship and also his train, but that's what was happening behind the scenes, because all of those things lured him and led him to Rome. And he never was able to explain why until, he said, it's just a matter of providence. There are no other explanation about that. Humanly speaking, it's useless to try to think of what happened.
It was really the hand of the Blessed Mother guiding him to this very church. I think a week before or a few days before what happened here, he had a dream or a vision of a cross.
Yes. That happened after a very decisive bet. Yes, because here in Rome he found a friend of him.
Yes.
And this one was able to talk to him for some while, and he showed him his brother. And it's important for us to know his name, Theodore, and like his brother actually, and Theodore de Bussier. In this case. And Theodore was very, very devoted to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And as some people may know, and they talked about religion. And Alphonse was really nervous. He was, I would say, angry. Just speaking about religion made him angry. But our man, Theodore, was very calm and listened until the end, and finally took his medal and showed it to him by saying, I want to make a bet with you. And he said, what kind of bet? Take this medal with you, even if you're not a believer, it's fine.
The miraculous medal.
Yeah, I mean the miraculous medal. Yes, it's important to specify that. And just pray the Memorare, the prayer linked to Saint Bernard, and something will happen, he said. Trust me, something will happen. Alphonse laughed because he said, it's something ridiculous. Nothing will happen. But just to prove you that those are all superstitions or useless things to do, I do it. So he took his medal, Theodore's medal, and he also took his text, the prayer, and he decided to take it with him and to pray all days this prayer, even if he was not a believer, as you know, and step by step.
And he prayed this prayer all day.
Yes, and those words were on his head. And finally, yes, he said that those words came up to his mind often, very often. And that was like, you know that when you hear some music and you have it on your mind. Yes, something like that. And even if he was so against Catholicism. And finally, some days before the apparition, he dreamed about a cross, but without Jesus, a black cross without Jesus, and this dream shocked him in some way.
What could that mean? Like a cross without Jesus, and he dreamt? about this?
My personal opinion is that this was just a step in the good direction. He still had to meet Jesus himself, but the idea of God was already been planted into him some ways.
Because he wasn't fully into the faith yet, and I think it
Yes.
might overwhelm him so much.
That's what I try to say, yes.
So we are right here now inside the church, but most especially we are in a very blessed and important spot, because behind us is the very place where the Blessed Mother appeared to Alphonse Ratisbonne in 1842. So this is such a special grace. Many thanks to Father Giacomo
Thanks
over
to God.
here. Yes, for doing this interview right here at the place where the Blessed Mother appeared. So to get into the story, what happened here, Father? Could you tell us the story of what happened here?
Yes, and I'm happy to be here just to show you, I would say more precisely, even the details of the image that he saw that day. He was so, as we said, he accepted the bad and he had that dream, very important one. But that was not enough for that moment, so something had still to happen. And that's why we can finally speak about what happened on the 20th January of 1842. He was in Piazza di Spagna, next to this church, and he met Theodore, this man, and Theodore was coming here in Santander delle Fratte because a friend of him died, and he had to talk to a priest in order to prepare everything for the funeral. And Alphonse decided to follow him, but he said at the very beginning he was outside the church. He had no interest in coming here, so just be outside until his friend ends his affairs, and then they'll proceed for a walk. But something, or maybe someone lured him into the church, and he decided to come in. And when he entered, in the very first moment, he just saw the church, and without appreciating something, he said that nothing was really interesting him.
Alphonse went into the church to look around at the architecture while the Baron took care of business in the sacristy. Suddenly, a large, aggressive-looking black dog appeared in the church, right in front of Alphonse, blocking the way in front of him. Then, unexpectedly, the dog disappeared. Immediately, a surge of resplendent light emanated from the chapel of the Guardian Angels, which was to the left of the nave. When Alphonse looked up, his eyes met the compassionate eyes of the Blessed Mother, who was in the exact same pose as on her miraculous medal. Her arms were outstretched, her hands pointed down, and brilliant rays of grace streamed from them.
I saw as if a veil was in front of me. The church seemed to me to be shrouded totally in darkness, with the exception of one chapel, as if the whole light of the church was concentrated in this chapel. As I raised my eyes towards the radiant chapel, and I saw the live, grand, majestic, most beautiful, merciful, and most holy Virgin Mary standing on her altar. She was similar in form to the image that can be seen on the miraculous medal of the Immaculate. She signaled to me to fall on my knees. An irresistible force pushed me towards her. She did not say anything, but I understood. As I fell on my knees on the spot where I stood, several times I attempted to raise my eyes to the Most Holy Virgin, but the splendor and reverence forced me to lower them. This did not prevent me from being totally aware of the apparition. I gazed at her hands, and I saw in them an expression of pardon and mercy in the presence of the Most Holy Virgin. Even though she did not say a word to me, I understood the horrible state in which I had been, the deformation caused by sin, the beauty of the Catholic religion. In other words, I understood everything.
But suddenly the church became dark. The whole church became dark, and he saw a light coming from this altar.
From this very altar here?
Yes, yes, and this chapel actually. and he was obviously wondering what was happening. He just saw a black dog that was there, trying also to distract him. And this is a figure of Satan in some ways. But he decided to go and to come here, and he saw here the Blessed Virgin Mary himself. He was finally in front of God's mercy through her and our mother. And he was here looking at her like you're doing now, and she appeared without saying nothing. He just showed her up, and he was like very similar to how she's described into the miraculous medal, but there are some significant particular that lure our attention. And the most important one is surely that one of her right hand. Because if you can see that, her right hand is not open like the left one. And this was the way she was talking to him. He said nothing, but he just said, he threw this finger by saying, okay, now it's time to kneel and to change your life. Alphonse kneeled down and as a not believer, but he stood up as a believer. And there are many, many messages through this event. One of the most important thing is that Alphonse was able to recognize that God exists and God loves him. Because if we truly understand God's love for us, then our lives will change dramatically. And that was how Alphonse understood that moment. He saw that through the Virgin Mary, God was talking to him and was loving him because he was not judging him for what he was doing. God just was trying to accept him and to convert him into the greater good. And that was Alphonse understood.
And that was the way that Mary was pointing, not in a way of judging, but in a way of loving mercy.
Yes. It's I would say one of the most important aspects of this apparition. I would say that is also one of the most important reasons, because we have to consider the importance of this apparition. It's like a thing. She was just telling everything without saying nothing. So even the importance of the simplicity of God's love for us. And then coming back to the story, Alphonse, when Theodore came from the sacristy in order to meet Alphonse and going for that walk, he saw Alphonse crying, and he naturally for the very first moment Theodore couldn't imagine that Alphonse saw the Virgin Mary, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and so that's why he had to ask to him what happened. He was just crying by saying, no, I have to talk to a priest. There is a man who prayed for me, and this is one of the most touching particular of this story, because there was a man who actually knew about that bed and decided to pray for him. And Alphonse was able to understand without knowing nothing. And he became so fond of the Blessed Virgin Mary of God, he decided to talk to a priest. Firstly, he didn't want to share the beauty of the apparition, but because that was a thing that was so holy, so I would say impossible to describe, that he didn't feel himself able to describe what happened. But then he understood that he had to say what happened, and then things moved on.
He didn't really know anything about Catholicism before.
Yes.
But after the Blessed Mother appeared to him, he received all of this knowledge, even deep theology of what the faith was. Could you share that?
Yes, that's my pleasure, because he, as we said, since he was against religion, as we said for the beginning of this recording, and he never read anything. He didn't he wasn't interested in reading or knowing something about religion. He never read the Bible or something like that. And after the apparition, he immediately, suddenly knew everything about Catholicism. You know that in order to be baptized, and he wasn't at the moment, in order to be baptized, he had to know the basic of Catholicism, because baptism is so important that the person who is baptized has to know what's happening. And you know that they may occur even 1 year. It depends. In order to understand the enough knowledge to be baptized. He was baptized 11 days later, on the 31st of January, because everyone saw that he was so ready to receive the baptized, to be baptized. Then Alphonse himself said, "I knew nothing, but immediately, suddenly, I know everything." He was able to talk about Bible, the original sin. He really focused on that by saying that the original sin was something well known, but I knew nothing about that. But he understood his importance and all the truth and the dogmas that were needed to be baptized. And that's what happened. That's so special. I would say impossible to describe with our words.
That really is a supernatural occurrence, because
Sure.
from an agnostic who wasn't even Catholic, an unbeliever suddenly gaining all of this knowledge from the gaze of Mary.
Yes, exactly.
So no, that's really amazing. Very miraculous indeed. So
yes.
And you mentioned that Alphonse, he was from the higher class, right?
Yes.
He was a socialite and he was known throughout Europe?
Yeah, his family, and especially in France.
And especially in France.
Especially in France. They were one of the most, I would say, known families of that time in France.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And after the apparition, he obviously changed everything. We have to specify that he still wanted to marry Flora.
Okay.
But her parents decided to deny her to him.
Okay.
Because of his conversion.
So yeah, that was...
He was still loved Flora, but after their rejection, he understood that probably God had something different for him. And then he started the studies, everything, in order to become a priest. And he joined his brother. So that's a very touching, I would say, detail to share.
So which order did he join?
Firstly, he was a Jesuit.
A Jesuit, yeah.
And then they founded a congregation of Our Lady of Sion. And this congregation had some special aims, some special goals, like help the Jews in every way. Firstly, to convert to Catholicism, because he had his own experience and strong experience of the truth of Catholicism, and so he dedicated himself in order to help them. Obviously, he tried to convert them, but always respectfully. And Alphonse was very loved from that people and at his age. Maybe something changed after his death, but I know that many of them have a strong and fond memory of him.
Where was the place exactly that the Blessed Mother appeared? Could you point it out to us?
According to what we know, the center of the altar should be placed in which the Blessed Virgin Mary appearing.
On top of this altar over here?
Yeah.
And this is the original altar from...
Yes, exactly.
And Father, how did Alphonse describe her physically? What was she wearing? What was she wearing? And
with the image you're looking at, it's very, very similar. I would say it's equal to what he saw. And as you may see, as I said, there are some particulars that are a little bit different from how she's represented on the medal. But I would say 95% is equal. So you have just to look at her image very, I would say very, very carefully, and you'll find some little differences. For example, her clothes is not as equal as it is in the medal, or her head, but there are little details, because it's very important to say that, because Alphonse was aware that she appeared as she's on the medal, because he accepted that bet, and he was bringing her medal on himself, so on him. So That's something that was directly related and linked to what happened in France when the Virgin Mary appeared to Santa Catherine Labouré.
One man's journey into the church is never exclusively his own. For everyone's life, for better or worse, has to have some sort of ripple effect on others. Alphonse's conversion was of international significance, and basically the miracle that shocked Europe, since he was known far and wide within diplomatic and financial circles for his hatred of the church. News of Ratisbonne's miraculous conversion from Judaism to Catholicism reverberated all around Rome, and then throughout Europe. Up until this time, the miraculous medal was only approbated by the Archbishop of Paris. But when word got out about Ratisbonne's remarkable change of heart and the alleged involvement of the miraculous medal, Rome instituted an official inquiry into his conversion. Cardinal Patrizio officiated the 25 sessions that took place between February 17 and June 3, 1842. The Church rendered her decision. The court fully recognized the signal miracle wrought by God through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the spontaneous and complete conversion of Marie Alphonse Ratisbonne from Judaism to Catholicism. So right next to the chapel of Our Lady of the Miracle, there is a bust of Saint Maximilian Kolbe here, and there's also a special connection of this powerful saint to this story. So Father, could you share that anecdote?
Sure. He, as everyone knows, Maximilian Maria Kolbe was deeply in love. He fell in love for Mary, and he was very famous, devoted to her. Mm-hmm. When he studied in Rome, he knew about this story, and he was really fascinated by it. So he grew in his devotion towards her until, well, I would say, and always by the time he understood very, very clearly her love for us. And he went until his ordination, presbyteral ordination, and he decided to celebrate his first mass here because of his love for the Madonna del Miracolo, for the Virgin of Miracle. And he always took this story into his heart like something special, because it's a special demonstration on how the Blessed Virgin Mary loves us.
As a sign of thanksgiving and gratitude, Alphonse visited the shrine of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal in Rue du Bac in Paris, and made several attempts to speak with the visionary who had been given the task of propagating the miraculous medal. However, he was told that the sister insisted upon being unknown. Even Pope Gregory XVI was unable to speak with Sister Labouré when he expressed an interest for the matter. So I'm here at the Chapel of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal here in Rue du Bac in Paris, France. I just have to talk in a very soft voice because we are inside a place of worship. So this is my third time here, and for me personally, this is home. This is home away from home. Our Lady's presence could be felt right here in this church, as if she is welcoming you with open arms. But anyway, for those of you who want to check out my videos about the story of this powerful Marian shrine, you could check it right here on my channel. Now, the reason why I am here is because the miraculous medal has a direct connection with Alphonse Ratisbonne. And it was because of the Blessed Mother, through her miraculous medal, that Ratisbonne was converted. Now, right after his conversion, Alphonse Ratisbonne came right here in Rue du Bac, here in Paris, to ask the Sisters of Charity if he could speak with the visionary of the miraculous medal. Now, the problem was that none of the sisters knew who the recipient to these wonderful apparitions was, since the sister, who is now Saint Catherine Labouré, expressed her desire to remain unknown. However, the real miracle of this story is Ratisbonne's conversion. And coming here, there is really just this powerful and deep peace that just feels like home. Anybody who leaves here is never the same. And that's also, in a way, a sort of a conversion of sorts. This is my third time here in Paris, and whenever I get the chance to come here to this beautiful city, I always make it a point to visit the Shrine of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, because it's as if that I'm coming into the Blessed Mother's home. There's simply just this powerful force that you just really can't explain, that's beckoning you to come inside. And I really believe that's the Blessed Mother and the Holy Spirit. So Father here has brought a very precious relic. Father, what is this relic that you have here?
This is the altar cloth in which the Virgin Mary appeared that day. And we usually don't show it, but in some particular special circumstances, and we take it and just to show people this important relic. And we are so graced to have it, because it's a permanent reminder of her love and what happened in this place.
What makes this Marian apparition very significant and important?
There are many aspects that can be developed in my answer, because from say a point of view, a faith point of view of faith, the Church hadn't still recognized the dogma of Immaculate Conception, because the dogma was proclaimed in 1854, but that here happened in 1842. So you know that the very beginning of this story happened some ways in France 12 years before this. And that happened in 1830 in France, in which the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to Santa Caterina Labouré by saying that she was conceived without sin. And this is the meaning of Immaculate Conception. And this apparition in Sant'Andrea delle Fratte confirms some ways that message. So the Church itself confirmed that that prayer was good. And actually, that prayer says that Mary was Immaculate Conception. So 12 years before the dogma was proclaimed, here in Sant'Andrea had a very significant moment for the truth, a revelation of the truth of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. So it's very important from this point of view, but obviously there are many other aspects that can be shared and focused on. And spiritually speaking, for example, this reminds us of how God loves us. It's not like I deserve God's love, but I just have to accept His love through the Blessed Virgin Mary's hand. So this is very important, even in the way that apparition happened. The silence, there are so many elements that can be focused on and that may share the quality of God's love for us.
And so what can young people learn about the story of Madonna del Miracolo?
Firstly, they can learn that, as I said, we haven't to deserve God's love, firstly. Because as you easily understand, Alphonse didn't deserve the Blessed Virgin Mary apparition. So that was very important for young people to hope in every moment for understanding that God is loving us. No one has to be pessimistic about the way God may help us through our life. We know that everyone, but in some ways, especially young people, may feel the pain about mass behavior, and sometimes we may lose our hope for something. But this expression will remind us that even if we don't deserve anything, or things would never change from our point of view, our opinion, then God may change everything without understanding how and where and when. But God can always do this, even through some kind of special events like apparition. But this is not something we have to focus on primarily, because we are not waiting for apparitions, but we are waiting for God's love to show us in special ways.
There's also the relics of, I call them saints now. As of this filming, they're not yet canonized, but they will be canonized in a month.
Very soon.
Carlo Acutis and Pier Frassati. Is there anything you wanted to share about this one, Father?
Those are two really good examples on what God can do for every one of us. They were so young, so we could say that they hadn't done so many things just to change. But God's love comes before our answer. Our answer depends on how we accept God's love, and those are really two great examples on how God can do miraculous things for people who are even young, and they really prove this to us.
And like I said, this is a church that is actually, it's quite hidden. It's quite hidden. Like, it could be easily missed because there are so many churches here in Rome. But what happened in this church is just beyond amazing. This is very near a tourist attraction, the Spanish Steps. But, the Blessed Mother has a very funny way of showing her graces and love, even in the hidden places, even to the most unsuspecting people. So I think even the setting is a reflection of that one. But it's such a beautiful story, and I feel that you, the viewer, should hear this story because maybe you're having a bad day today or you are having some difficulty. But, I think it's important for us to really just look at Mother Mary in this way. And as Father said a while ago, her hands point, but not in a judging way, but as an invitation for us to accept her love and God's love especially. So, Father, is there any last words that you want to impart on our viewer?
I would just say, firstly, thanks for having me. And I just want to tell you that we here in Sant'Andrea delle Fratte are always witness of special graces. This is truly a special place in which God showed us and still shows us His love, and always tells us that relying on Blessed Virgin Mary's love is always a good thing to do because it really pays off.
Father, are there any miracles that happen here? Like even from day to day people, do you hear stories?
A lot of. So many people who healed mysteriously, but I'm especially touched by people who came here, and there are so many. Trust me, I don't say something like spectacular things, but so many people who come here saying that they, like Alphonse, they didn't know why, but they feel attracted to come here, and in front of the altar, something happened, and there are some people who really converted truly to the faith. This is something so amazing that I'm almost trembling by saying, but trust me, it's the truth. I'm remembering someone who came here in the sacristy by saying that he had to talk to me. Okay, you'd say fine. I obviously couldn't imagine what was happening, and he started crying and say that here he understood that his life wasn't good. He, before entering the church, was as usual, but in front of that image, he suddenly, like I would say, a lightning happened. He understood immediately the good and the evil. The good of he was missing and the evil things he was doing.
Wow.
That's so amazing. I do remember the details. Obviously I can't share them all because something is personal, but he decided to tell me something, and that was one of the most touching moments of my life, I suppose, from this point of view.
For those who are watching, if you are here in Rome or are planning to come to Rome, I really highly suggest, please do not miss this pilgrimage spot. Do come here to this church of Sant'Andrea del Frate and the sanctuary of Our Lady of the Miracle. It's within walking distance of the Spanish Steps. Again, very, very beautiful shrine. And like I said, like when you come here, there's this just very peaceful feeling that you feel because we know that the Blessed Mother is really present here. The man who hated the church with a passion went on to spend 10 years with the Jesuits studying for the priesthood. He asked to go to China to evangelize but was turned down repeatedly. Believing he was meant to be an apostle, Alphonse joined his brother, Theodore, who had founded the Congregation of Our Lady of Zion in order to evangelize the Jews. Alphonse spent over 30 years in the Holy Land, passionately helping and evangelizing his own people. In a way, Our Lady through this apparition didn't only come for the Christians, but through her maternal love was also reaching out to the Jewish and Muslim people. A reminder from heaven, especially with the current situation in the Middle East today, that Mary was both a Palestinian and a Jew, and that her love extends to all. From the Spanish Steps, I now leave the historic downtown area, away from all the tourists and the hustle and bustle of the metropolis, and into the suburbs of Rome, in the place of Tre Fontane, part of the Ardiantino neighborhood. The name Tre Fontane is Italian for the Three Fountains, and is a religious site quite popular among pilgrims as it marks the spot where St. Paul was said to have been martyred by decapitation under the reign of Nero. It is said that St. Paul's head bounced 3 times, and 3 miraculous springs appeared on the spot, which can still be seen today in the shrine and abbey of the Three Fountains, built to commemorate the saint's martyrdom. Also within this complex of this ancient abbey is home to the churches dedicated to Our Lady of the Martyrs and Saints Vincent of Zaragoza and Anastasius of Persia. Here in this neighborhood, however, I take you to another Marian shrine that is also quite popular among the Romans. Just across the street from the shrine of St. Paul's martyrdom is a tiny grotto shrine, its origins dating not too long ago, just after the Second World War in 1947. Considered today as holy ground as it is a shrine to the Blessed Mother, this wasn't always the case. During the war, the fascist regime had confiscated this land which rightfully belonged to the monks of the Abbey of Tre Fontane. The trees there were planted by an Austrian Trappist who was commissioned by Pope Pius IX to reopen the Trappist Abbey of Tre Fontane. The eucalyptus groves, however, and tufa grottos were now given over to sin. Already before the war, the monks had protested the conditions developing in the area. In rather strong language, the abbot described the main grove as a pigsty and brothel. Immediately after the liberation of Rome, the property on which Our Lady appeared on eventually became known as a dangerous place, known for crime and a nest for prostitutes, delinquents, and drifters, to name a few, who congregated in the zone as there was no police supervision because they themselves feared the area. In other words, this stretch of land was a concentration of human miseries. We have to remember that even though the war had just ended, the year of 1947 was a world in a broken state where the young threw themselves into the enjoyment of life's pleasures without so much as a scruple over their moral quality. The abyss opening between Catholics and anti-clericals was deep indeed. The confrontation between moderates who sought to place a stone lid over the horrors and massacres of the war, and revolutionaries pushing for another bloodbath to expiate past crimes was approaching at a critical point. It was into this setting where 100 years after Alphonse Ratisbonne, the Blessed Mother came to reclaim this land as her own, and the chosen recipient of this special grace was a man who not only hated Catholicism, but vowed with his very life to destroy one of the faith's pillars, and that is the Pope. So I am currently in the area of Tre Fontane here in Rome, which is quite well known within the Catholic world because the name Tre Fontane, or Three Fountains, is reputed to be the very place where St. Paul was martyred. So it is said that after St. Paul was beheaded, his severed head bounced 3 times, causing a spring to well up from the ground. There is now an abbey and shrine dedicated to St. Paul just right here, and I believe it is called St. Paul at the Three Fountains, Abbey and Church just across from this park. However, not many people know that There is also a shrine here at Tre Fontane dedicated to the Blessed Mother, and she is venerated here as the Virgin of the Revelation. And this is the site of an apparition which, though not yet formally approved by the Church yet, was acknowledged by Saint Pope John Paul II in 1997 when he approved the renaming of the place as Holy Mary of the Third Millennium at the Three Fountains here in Rome. Now, I don't normally travel to places or shrines that haven't been approved by the Church yet, specifically when it comes to Marian apparitions. However, after reading about this Marian shrine in particular, I became very interested because good fruits and graces have come about from this shrine, from this Marian apparition site. And as mentioned earlier, Pope John Paul II did acknowledge this shrine in a good light. And even Pope Pius XII himself, Pope John Paul's predecessor, even blessed the statue of the Blessed Mother here in Tre Fontane. And also the fact that there is also a religious congregation which was formed from this Marian apparition, and they do missions and evangelize and even work inside the Holy See. And I've seen them particularly in the Lateran Basilica in downtown Rome. So come and join me as I take you here to Tre Fontane, away from the hustle and bustle of Rome, to peaceful Tre Fontane, as I walk and retell the story of Bruno and the Virgin of the Revelation.
The missionaries of divine revelation were approved by the Church in 2001. And of course we were born from this wonderful story of the Virgin of Revelation. And our mission, taking the inspiration from Our Lady's message, is to participate, to be missionaries of the word of truth, as Our Lady said, and to participate in the new evangelization. And so we do that in every way possible. We work in catechetical groups, we have catechetical groups, we do the catechism in the parishes, and we also have an extensive program called Catechesis with Art. And so, if you like, we participate in the new evangelization, any means possible to bring the message of God's love to the whole world in the third millennium.
Beautiful. And you know, it was very interesting, and I mentioned this to you earlier, sister, like in the Lateran Basilica, like the Sisters of Divine Revelation are there. And I was very curious because your habit is green.
Yes, of course.
And it's very rare, and I haven't seen any sister yet wearing green. So I was very curious, and when I saw that you were linked to this apparition of the Virgin of Revelation, I was very intrigued by it. So is that the reason why
exactly,
you wear the
yes,
color
and
green?
in fact in a few moments when we go and have a look where Our Lady appeared and we see the statue, it becomes obvious why the sisters are wearing green.
Yes.
And so we were born from this wonderful story, and so our habit is a reminder to the world. It's a chance, it's an opportunity also to tell everybody about this wonderful apparition.
Bruno Cornacchiola was a railway conductor who, although being baptized Catholic, had fallen away from the faith due to poor upbringing. He grew up in an environment in an ill-fated district of Rome where he had to fend for himself. As a result, he became a champion in foul language and a first-class bully, and had several contacts in the criminal world. He got married and had 3 children, but he was known to have a temper and would beat his wife Yolanda, especially during drunken nights. He eventually abandoned his family to fight in the Spanish Civil War, siding with the communists. It was here where Cornacchiola became an Adventist, and his hatred for the Church, especially the Pope and Our Lady, grew.
Bruno Cornacchiola was a man who grew up on the streets. His family life was unstable, and so he led, if you like, a violent life. And he became more ordered, if you like, when he finally joined the military. And a few years after joining the military, he then went to fight in Spain again in the Spanish Civil War. And while he was in Spain, he met a Protestant called Otto, who convinced him that the Pope was the root cause of all the evils in the world and the cause of wars. And so Bruno described, that he felt a hatred in that moment for the church. And so he said at that moment, he said, well, if that's the case, I'm going to kill him. And so he nurtured this desire to kill the Holy Father, to kill Pope Pius XII. And that became concrete because he bought a dagger when he was in Toledo, and on the handle he wrote, "Death to the Pope."
Oh my.
And so he was, what can I say, he was terrible to the priests. He used to swear at them, he would spit at them. And even when he then later returned to Rome and worked as a tram driver, a priest one day was running for a bus, and he closed the door in his face and he fell and broke his hip, the priest. So it was a real, it was a real hatred for the Catholic Church, yes.
And was he born a Catholic? Was he a Catholic?
Yes, he did. As I said, he grew up on the streets, and one day he met a woman at the Scala Santa where he'd been sleeping, and she asked him if he'd made his first communion. Because he thought it was food, he had the chance for a plate of pasta. He then went on to follow the lessons for the catechism. And so one day he actually even made his first Holy Communion. After receiving his first Holy Communion, during that moment, he saw an image of our Blessed Mother, and he wished that, his mother could be so as beautiful as Our Lady. He returned home and he apologised to his mother because he'd treated her badly a few days earlier. And his mother hit him so hard he fell down the stairs.
Oh, really?
And with that, he threw away the books and things that he'd received on his first communion. And so, if you like, he was formed but didn't then after practice the faith.
Oh, that's terrible. So he really had a difficult childhood, growing up as well.
He did. Before the apparition of Our Lady, this was a place outside the walls were opposite, exactly opposite where St. Paul was martyred. And so it's called Aqua Salvi, the water that saves, because of course St. Paul was beheaded here, and then 3 fountains miraculously sprung up. So we're just across the street, and so very often there's this link between what happened with St. Paul's martyrdom, and in Bruno there's a modern day persecutor of the church.
Oh wow, it's a very interesting connection.
Our Lady doesn't just appear in some random place. She prepares the terrain for many years. She sees everything from a long way off, and so this place then became, if you like, it was covered in eucalyptus trees, and it was known to be a place of sin. This is a place where prostitutes would come, where there would be illegal abortions and all those kind of things.
This place before?
Yes.
Oh.
In fact, the grotto, Our Lady referred to it as a place of sin for that reason. But of course, during the day, it would be a place where children could play. There's a park over the back as well. It's an extensive area, and in fact, Bruno brought his children here to play ball that day while he would write a speech.
And that's where we come now to the story of the Marian apparition.
The story starts on the 12th of April, 1947. By divine providence, Bruno and his children missed the train to Ostia. They wanted to go to the beach. And so instead, Bruno brought them out here to Trefontane, because the idea was that he would get the children the chocolate from the Trappist monastery across the street.
Oh, from St. Paul's?
Yes, of course. And then the children could play while he was set to write a speech against Our Lady. To prove the next day he was about to make a big speech to the youth movement of the Seventh Adventists, to say that Our Lady was neither a virgin nor immaculate. And so he was sat here under a tree that was in this very location.
So this very tree. So he sat here.
Not under this tree, but the tree was here in this location.
Okay.
And so he was sat here, going through the pages of the scriptures to look for arguments against Our Lady, when all of a sudden the children who were playing ball, the ball was hit too hard, and so started to roll down the hill, and so they asked Bruno to help them find it.
How many kids did Bruno have?
So Bruno, at the time of the apparition, he was with little Jim Franco, who was 4 at the time, Carlo, and Isola. He was 11.
So 3 kids.
Yes, 3 children. Yes.
And how was his marriage? How was Bruno's marriage?
Bruno, what can I say? Bruno wasn't, you can imagine, he wasn't the most faithful. He was violent. He was unfaithful to his wife, Yolanda. And, you know, it was a difficult thing. Yolanda, he wanted Yolanda to become a Protestant like him. And so a few years before, Yolanda made him this kind of challenge. She said, you do the 9 First Fridays to the Sacred Heart, and if after the 9 First Fridays you haven't changed your mind, I'll believe it's exactly like you say. I'll believe it's just a fable, and I'll become a Protestant. So Bruno actually did the 9 First Fridays. No, he didn't go to confession. He didn't do them with any pious what can we say, observance.
Just out of mockery.
He just did it really to kind of appease his wife, and then she would become a Protestant. And so at the end of 9 months, he hadn't changed his mind, and so Yolanda followed him, and they became a Baptist. And then as Bruno found that the Baptists weren't anti-Catholic enough, he then became a Seventh Adventist, and that's how we found him at the time of the apparition.
April 12, 1947 was a beautiful spring afternoon when Bruno and his 3 children arrived at 3:30 p.m. in Tre Fontane. While his children were playing with the ball, Bruno was practicing a speech against the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. Noticing that he didn't hear his children any longer, he set out to look for them. He found his son Gianfranco on his knees by the mouth of the grotto cave, repeating the words, "Beautiful lady." Bruno's daughter Isola arrived with flowers in her hands, and upon looking inside the grotto, went into ecstasy and exclaimed the same words her brother was saying, "Beautiful lady." Convinced that they were playing a joke, Bruno's temper flared up and shook the children. He tried lifting them but could not. His children became very white, and in a state of panic, Bruno cried out to God to save them.
The grotto was empty and dark. No one was in there. I ran towards the edge of the plateau to search for help, but I did not see a living soul. I stopped and started to cry, invoking the Lord, saying, "God, save us."
All of a sudden, everything around Bruno disappeared.
I saw 2 very white hands coming towards me from inside the grotto. Slowly but surely, the fingers came together, touched my eyes, and I felt as if something like scales had been torn from me and then had fallen away. I too, just like my children, fell to my knees with my hands joined. I felt that a true peace, a tranquility, an indescribable joy I had never experienced before entered inside me. Then a veil, like a transparent curtain, gradually opened before me. From inside the darkness of the grotto, I saw a small light that was becoming larger and larger. In the middle of this supernatural light, I saw a mound of earth suspended in the air. With amazement and an emotion that I could hardly bear, I saw the figure of a heavenly woman above the mound. She had a light brown, oriental-type complexion. On her head rested a green mantle that was like the color of a grassy meadow in springtime. It flowed down her sides all the way to her feet. From under the green mantle, you could glimpse a side of her black hair with the center parting. She had a long, pure, white dress with white sleeves, which was closed at the neck. Her waist was tied by a rose sash with 2 sashes that descended on the right-hand side to the knee. She appeared to be a young woman of 20 to 25 years old and about 1 meter in height.
The children were playing ball, and the ball went missing. And so Bruno started to look for the ball. At a certain point, Jim Franco had been reading a comic. Jim Franco was a little 4-year-old, and he was prone to mischief. And so Bruno, while he was searching for the ball, would call out to him to make sure he was still there. At a certain point, Jim Franco stopped responding. And so Bruno started to worry, where's he gone? And so he came then to look for the child, and he found him knelt down in front of this grotto with his hands clasped, saying, beautiful lady, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. Bruno wasn't the most patient, so of course he thought it was just a game. And so he was saying to Isola, I don't like this game. And then 2 seconds later, Isola, his daughter, she also put herself on her knees with her hands joined, saying, beautiful lady, beautiful lady, beautiful lady.
Yeah.
In the next moment, Carlo too joined the chorus, beautiful lady, beautiful lady, beautiful lady. And Bruno became, what can we say, a little bit annoyed. You know, he was working on his speech, and so he tried to move them, but they were like marble. Their eyes were transfixed, so he thought maybe, I don't know, a priest had done something to them. And so when they wouldn't move, he started to call out and look inside the grotto to see if something had happened. As he came out, he called on God. He said, God help us. And in that moment, he saw 2 hands coming towards him from the grotto that removed, if you like, the scales from his eyes. And he too saw the beautiful lady.
Bruno fell on his knees, spellbounded by the Blessed Mother's beauty. She bore the signs of extreme sadness, and he noticed she held a gray book close to her chest, and on her feet was a broken crucifix and a black cloth. She began to speak to him.
I am she, who is one with the divine Holy Trinity. I am the Virgin of the Revelation. You have persecuted me. Enough of it now. Re-enter into the heavenly sheepfold, which is God's kingdom on earth, the eternal miracle of God, where Christ laid the foundation stone, that foundation on the eternal rock of Peter. Do not forget that I always love you. I have never forgotten you, and in your misfortunes I am always close to you, because it is God's promise, which is unchangeable, eternal covenant, and will remain so. The 9 First Fridays in honor of the Sacred Heart, which your faithful wife persuaded you to observe before you walked down the road of lies and became ruthless, has saved you. You must be like the flowers which your daughter Isola picked. They make no protest, they are silent, and do not rebel. Do penance for the salvation of others. I will always be close to you. I will use you as the means of their conversion. Be strong and reassure the unbelievers with your prayers. In this place of dirt and sin, I shall perform miracles for the conversion of unbelievers and the most obstinate sinners. Your friends will become your enemies and will set themselves against you to bring you down. Be strong, because you will be consoled in the very moment you believe yourself to have been abandoned. The conversion of obstinate sinners is important and is of value to God. My heart weeps due to unbelief and the sin against God. Come to the heart of Jesus. Come to my heart, and you will be consoled and unburdened in your sorrows. All sinners, come. Consecrate yourselves to my Immaculate Heart without doubting that you will find help. Return to the pure source of the gospel. Pray much and recite the rosary daily for the conversion of sinners, of unbelievers, and for Christian unity. The Hail Marys that you say with faith and love are as many as golden arrows that pierce the heart of Jesus. You need to be strong in the faith. Even when priests are in an infernal whirlwind, they are dear to me. They will be trampled upon and massacred. I will surround you with a small but strong group. The truth is one.
Bruno could hear Our Lady. The children only saw her. That's important to say. So of course you can imagine what Our Lady had to say to a persecutor of the church. I am the Virgin of Revelation. So she introduces herself. I am the Virgin of Revelation. You persecute me. Enough. In the Italian, it comes through much stronger. It's ora basta. It means you persecute me, enough, stop. Return to the holy sheepfold, the celestial court on earth. And so she calls him back into the church. And so she would speak to Bruno for an hour. And so during that time, she had lots of things to say, as you can imagine. And so she said many consoling things. I think it's important, to see Our Lady as a mother who's caring for her son. And so she said, the Hail Marys that you say with faith and love are like golden arrows to the heart of my son. She had never stopped saying the Holy Rosary. I am always with you to help you. Our Lady, of course, went on to explain to Bruno why this miraculous event, because she said the 9 first Fridays that you said before undertaking the road of lies has saved you. And so Our Lady, and this is an amazing thing, Our Lady made reference to the apparition of the Sacred Heart and the Grace in that apparition as bringing fruits to Bruno for his conversion, which is a great encouragement for us all as well, to have great devotion. In fact, one aspect that comes from Our Lady's message is devotion to the Eucharist and devotion, of course, to the Sacred Heart.
The Sacred Heart.
Our Lady would go on and she would promise many miracles from this place. She said, with this soil of sin, I will work great miracles for the conversion of unbelievers and sinners. And so, obviously, great miracles have followed from the apparition, and of course the miracles is one sign of Our Lady's presence.
In Tre Fontane, Our Lady revealed to Bruno an important aspect about her life, which was about her Assumption, and interestingly enough at the time, had not been proclaimed dogma yet.
My body could not die, so it could not decay, and did not decay, because I am immaculate. It was in the ecstasy of divine love that I was taken to heaven by Jesus, the Word, my Son, and the angels. My flesh could not decay, and did not decay, and my Son came for me with his angels.
And so, it was here, just as Lourdes is linked with the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, here at Tre Fontane, it's the Assumption. So Our Lady, at this time, 1947, Pope Pius XII was considering whether he should proclaim the dogma of the Assumption. And in fact, a year before, Pope Pius XII wrote a letter to everyone in the church asking to pray for some heavenly confirmation if he should proclaim the dogma of the Assumption or not. On the 12th of April 1947, he received his answer because Our Lady said, I could not decay, I did not decay because I am immaculate. My Son and the angels took me to heaven. And of course, what do we know? On the 1st of November 1950, Pope Pius XII proclaimed the dogma of the Assumption. It's important to remember that Our Lady's Assumption is a great image and message of hope and joy. Another thing that Our Lady said, the true Church of my Son is founded on 3 white loves, the Eucharist, the Immaculate Virgin Mary, and the Holy Father. And this is important because Our Lady was appearing to a Protestant. And so with these 3 white loves, as they're called, we're able to distinguish the Church. And so because in the Catholic Church, we believe in the Eucharist as being the Lord's true presence with us. We believe and have devotion, of course, to our Blessed Mother. And we follow the teaching in that unbroken chain that goes back all the way from Christ to St. Peter, now all the way to Pope Leo XIV. So, you know, in the Catholic Church we have these 3 white loves. And so this was away, because obviously in the Protestant churches they don't have the Eucharist. They don't necessarily have a devotion to Our Lady, and of course they don't have the teaching of the Magisterium and the Holy Father.
Yes. So we are right in front here of the apparition site in the grotto of the Virgin of the Revelation. So sister, what are some of the miracles that happened here? So I mean, the greatest miracle first was Bruno's conversion.
Of course.
His immediate conversion right after Mary appeared to him.
Of course.
So what happened on that first day when he went home? Is there any documentation?
Well, of course. The first thing Bruno did after the apparition stopped, because the apparition, as I said, lasted from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 5, so it lasted for an hour. And the first thing Bruno did, because this was a place of sin, is he tidied up the grotto. And he inscribed in the stone that's now washed away, unfortunately, holy place. Here the Virgin of Revelation appeared to me, 12th of April 1947.
Wow.
So they cleaned up the grotto, and then Bruno felt this desire to pray. And so, as I said, across the street is Tre Fontane. And so there's the Trappist monastery there. So the children and Bruno went into the Trappist monastery and wanted to pray. Now, Bruno had forbidden his children to go to the catechism class, but Isola, thanks to the Lord, ignored him, and so she was able to teach him the prayers. And so for the first time, they said the prayers. So we had, so he went like this: Hail Mary, full of grace, full of grace. And so with Isola saying the prayers and then repeating it, they said the first prayer there in the Trappist monastery.
Oh, beautiful.
Then, of course, when upon going home, Bruno said to his children, don't say anything. But of course, when he saw his wife, Bruno went down on his knees and asked for forgiveness for the terrible way he treated his wife. And in fact, that was one of the things that made his wife Yolanda believe that he'd seen the Virgin Mary, because he was so terrible that he never would have done that.
And now that he came home, he was fully converted.
He was converted. It was, what can we say? You know, conversion is exactly that. It's a turning to God. You know, there was a miraculous event that had a big impact. And of course, every person, whenever there's an apparition, Our Lady always gives some confirmation. So Our Lady told Bruno during the apparition that he was to search for a priest. So he was to approach a priest and say, Father, I must talk to you, to which the priest would respond, Ave Maria, my son, what do you want? And would indicate another priest. So following the apparition, the next thing is, was it true? Was it a dream? You know, and although Bruno felt the joy of having seen Our Lady, he wanted that confirmation, that external confirmation. So for the next 2 weeks, Bruno searched and searched and searched for this priest. In the end, after 16 days, Bruno was desperate. And of course, being, you know, a violent man, it was expressed in, you know, almost, it wasn't like a Hollywood story where Bruno converts and it's all easy. You know, Bruno had to work, as we all do, also with our humanity. And so in the end, his wife said to him, why don't you just go to the parish church? So he was in the parish of All Saints. He didn't really like that idea because he'd been so terrible to the priests. He used to swear at them, disrupt the mass. Nevertheless, he was so desperate, he went to the parish church. And he crept into the sacristy. And finally, he met the priest. He said, Father, I must talk to you. And he said, Ave Maria, my son, what do you want? And he indicated Don Carneal, who would then eventually bring Bruno and his whole family back into the Catholic Church. The miracles, there are many miracles. In fact, that's one of the things that if you like, distinguish the grotto from the star. Our Lady said, with this soil of sin I will work great miracles. for unbelievers and sinners. And in fact, if we go around the back of the grotto, we can show you the famous plaques that have been left by those who have been blessed by a miracle from this apparition.
All right, let's go to that place, the ex voto place, where we can see all the miracles.
So here we see all the PGR, per grazia ricevuto, which means in English, for graces received. So here we are in the heart of the grotto. You can see lots of formal plaques for graces received. And you know, there's been so many miracles. Not every miracle that has been granted by Our Lady has been rewarded with a physical sign, because we know there are so many. What kind of miracles? There's been physical miracles, healings of marriages, conversions. Every form of human suffering, Our Lady has responded to in this grotto through the intentions said to, given up to the Virgin of Revelation. There's a few things to note. The miracles started straight away. So in June 1947, a man, Carlo Mancuso, fell down a lift shaft, and after a nurse placed a little bit of the soil from the grotto on him, and although all his bones on the x-ray still show as being broken, he was able to walk.
Wow.
Such that on the 5th of October 1947, when the statue was brought into the grotto, he was one of the people who carried it into the grotto. And so there was lots of miracles. Another soldier was cured from a brain tumour. So there was many miracles at the start. In fact, by the December, there was over 100 physical miracles that had been registered, such that the bureau that was investigating cases at Lourdes started to look at Trefontane.
That's amazing. Wow, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah.
And we know that Our Lady continues to send miracles even today. So here we are in the heart of the grotto, where we can see this plaque with Roman numerals on it. I'm sure you know how to read the Roman numerals.
Yes, of course.
It says the 12th of April, 1947, because the grotto, if you like, is supported by a false wall. But at the end of the apparition, Our Lady bowed 3 times, turned, and disappeared through this wall.
Really?
So when Bruno used to come here to pray, he would come and pray in this place here.
Oh, so Mary appeared here?
In the grotto, but she
through here, okay.
And so here we can perhaps say a prayer to Our Lady for everyone's intentions.
Oh yes, let's say a prayer, yes.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Virgin of Revelation, pray for us.
Bruno's conversion shocked many circles in Rome, and his conversion alone led many people to believe that the Blessed Mother truly appeared to him. Just like St. Paul's conversion, Bruno would later testify,
Here in this grotto, I, myself a sinner, on my ignorant and egotistical horse, came to prepare my battle against the dogma of the Immaculate Conception as defined by Mother Church. The Virgin Mary herself came and cast me down from that horse into the dust. Taking pity on me, she spoke to me maternally, saying, You persecute me. Enough now. From that moment on, Jesus entered my heart. In her infinite goodness, the Virgin Mother showed me the way of salvation.
So, sister, why did the Blessed Mother wear green here? It's a very interesting, shall I say, wardrobe choice for Mother Mary to choose. Because in other places she wears usually blue or white. But is there any special significance why she wore green? Is there any?
Of course.
Yeah.
When Our Lady introduced herself, she had an important phrase. She said, I am the Virgin of Revelation. I am who I am in the Divine Trinity. And so Bruno would then explain the meaning of the colours. So why this beautiful green? Well, of course, Our Lady, in relation to the Divine Trinity, she is the daughter of the Father. She is the mother of the Son, and she is the spouse of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And so when we see Our Lady here in this apparition, what we find is she has green, because that is a call to the creation, God the Father. She wears white, just like the Eucharist, and so it's a call to her Son. And she has a pink sash, which is the colour of the fire of the Holy Spirit. Everything Our Lady says and does is a way of helping her children come closer to the faith.
That's right. And why did she call herself Virgin of the Revelation in particular?
So Our Lady said, I am the Virgin of Revelation. Now, when we hear that, and she appeared, of course, very importantly, holding the scriptures at her breast. Now, obviously, when Our Lady appears, sometimes we see her holding the child Jesus in her arms. But of course, Jesus is also the Word made flesh. And so the Word that is embodied also in the Holy Scriptures. Mm-hmm. And so Our Lady says, I am the Virgin of Revelation. And instantly our minds go to the book of Revelation, or the book of the Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. But we have to remember that Our Lady spoke in Italian. And so I am the Virgin of Revelation. She wasn't referring to that last book of the Bible. She was referring to divine revelation. So of course, in the teaching of the Catholic Church, what's important to understand the Scriptures is what's written in the Scriptures in the light of the magisterium teaching of the Church and also her traditions. And so when she said, I am the Virgin of Revelation, it was a recall to the whole traditional way in which the Church has always understood the Scriptures given to us by God, which is the very Word of God. And so in this time, in 1947, Catholics didn't read the Bible. And so one of the distinguishing things, Bruno was called then to create a catechetical mission, and one of the distinguishing features, of course, was his catechesis to help us learn and understand the teaching in the Holy Scriptures and the meaning of the sacred Scriptures in light of the magisterium of the Church. And so I am the Virgin of Revelation. She is the woman who, as Pope Benedict said, in his first encyclical, comes in and out of the Scriptures with ease. She is the one of whom divine revelation always speaks.
So, sister, what are some things that people don't know about the Virgin of Revelation, apart from the main story?
I think one thing that we can say is, this story is big news. In 1980, there was the miracle of the sun here at Tre Fontane. And, it lasted so long. It was on the 12th of April, 1980. It even interrupted the Holy Mass. And then in 1982, Our Lady asked for a big sanctuary here, a purgatorium on the earth. So a place where the lost will find a home and people will find the sense of their lives. Mm-hmm. This is really important. And what's even more exciting, then John Paul II named the sanctuary, Our Lady of the Third Millennium at Tre Fontane. But we've not finished yet, because in the last few months, the sanctuary, the shrine to the Virgin of Revelation was made a formal shrine for the Roman diocese. And so this is an important step. And so we're hoping that very soon the sanctuary will start, the shrine will start to be renewed. And that will fulfill one of Our Lady's prophecies.
Oh, beautiful. And you mentioned Pope Pius XII, he blessed the image, the statue of Our Lady of the Revelation. Is that right?
As it was, the statue was taken to St. Peter's Square before it was processed all the way through Rome on a royal carriage.
Wow.
And brought here to the grotto.
That's beautiful, yes. And let's go back a bit. I know I should have asked this at the very beginning, but why did Our Lady appear particularly in 1947? What was going on in 1947?
Well, I think, in 1947, Our Lady chooses her time, and Our Lady, during the apparition to Bruno, she would show Bruno the image of a ripped cassock and a broken cross. And she said, my sons will despoil themselves inside and out. So this was at a time when no one would have ever thought, some of the challenges that would happen after following the Second Vatican Council. And so I think Our Lady was preparing us for a time when we need to really understand the faith. Because Our Lady, she didn't, what can I say? She was very strong. She says, the true church of my son is founded on three white loaves, the Eucharist, the Immaculate, and the Holy Father. And so this is a call for us to be very strong in our faith. At a time when, we could say, the faith was strong and good. And she said, there will be a time when people will doubt my son's presence in the Eucharist. Our Lady speaks of this. And of course, in our own time, that's what we've seen.
Yeah.
So I think Our Lady was preparing for a more difficult time in the church and to tell us to be strong in the faith.
During those times.
But also something else. She wanted to also say, I am always here to help you. And so she said to the priest, this is beautiful, she said, tell them to call me mother. And so this is to encourage the priests to find in our Blessed Mother a true mother with maternal concern for all their needs.
It's so beautiful. And yes, because it's Our Lady in a lot of vocation stories. It is the Blessed Mother who always guides them. And I hear a lot of vocation stories where if they're not sure whether to pursue seminary, they always go to Mary as sort of like a last resort.
Of course.
Of things.
Of course.
And, with that, this leads me now to this question. What led you, sister, to become one of the missionaries of Divine Revelation? Like, what is your vocation story, sister?
Well, of course, obviously, I come from near Manchester in England, and the Lord sent me to Rome. We can say that that's a great story. And I was, I found out first heard about the apparition of the Virgin of Revelation when I was in my early 20s, and I met Bruno. And I became totally taken by this story, such that in our parish, St. Mary's in Wigan, we started a prayer group. And so it was the first prayer group dedicated in England to the Virgin of Revelation. And so for a number of years, I continued to do the catechesis, because obviously the teaching of the church is important. So we would pray the rosary and do the catechesis. And at the same time, I was very blessed. My career, I was very fortunate in my work. And I went all the way to becoming a director of a company. And at that point, a friend, the same friend who introduced me to the Virgin of Revelation, suggested that we come on holiday to Rome. And to cut a very long story short, we came out here to the grotto. And, I asked that important question that I think is in everyone's hearts. Lord, what do you want me to do? And so, it was when I was in the grotto that Our Lady made me understand that I was called to be like Sister Agnese and Sister Priscilla, and I became whiter than my top. And I battled with the Lord. I thought, no, you can't mean it, to come to Rome when I don't know the language, I don't know anything. But instead, that was the calling. And so, after lots of prayer and meditation, that's what happened. I came to Rome. I left my career and I came to Rome, with the intention, so that the whole world could know of this wonderful story and that it can be, if you like, an encouragement to many hearts. Our Lady, in many ways, has healed the brokenhearted here. When she says, with this soil of sin, what she really means are all those who are suffering, I will help. Our Lady says, I am always with you to help you. Never stop saying the Holy Rosary. And so Our Lady, in many ways, was a real mother to Bruno, calling him back to the faith. But Bruno is also an example for us.
Yes. In many ways, we are like Bruno also.
Yes, of course.
When we don't follow what God wants us to do.
Yeah.
In very basic catechism. Another sister that you mentioned, you met Bruno. When was this? And how is he like? How was he
by the time I met Bruno, he was an old man, but he recounted the story, and it's somewhat amazing because, our Mother Superior, Mother Rebecca, would translate it for me, which, after a number of years, I was able to understand it myself.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
So we spoke always through a translator who was our Mother Superior, Mother Rebecca.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And sister, there is a statue of Saint Maximilian Kolbe here.
Yes.
Is there a significance to that in particular?
Well, obviously, in time, there were so many people who were visiting the grotto.
Mm-hmm.
The church's preoccupation is always to look after the pilgrims who come. And so, just down the road, there is the Basilica of St. Peter and Paul, and so the grotto is in that parish. And that was, if you like, managed by the Franciscans. And so, they were appointed as guardians of the grotto, and so we have one of the most devoted Franciscan to Our Lady, St. Maximilian Kolbe.
That's right.
And so we find also that history here at the sanctuary too.
Oh, beautiful. And sister, what is your reflection of this Marian apparition, and what can you share especially to young people today, now that this is like the Jubilee of the Youth and we just finished with that? What message can you share?
I think what I would say is, it's very difficult to be far from our Lord when we call on Our Lady. And so here, Our Lady, came to Bruno, who was, in many ways desperate. And so very often, the faith is beautiful and challenging and worthy of the youth. And Our Lady encourages us to get to know our faith well. But also, she reminds us that whatever the situation we find ourselves in, we can always call on her, and we will find her maternal care and many miracles. And so, for any young person listening to this interview, I would say, I would repeat the words of Our Lady, call me Mother. I am always here to help you.
Bruno Cornacchiola passed away in 2001 at the age of 88. Even after his conversion, he struggled with his own personality, and despite being an imperfect man, there is no doubt that he was truly devoted to God and the Blessed Mother. He had fulfilled the mission given to him by the Lady. The same could be said of Alphonse Ratisbonne 105 years earlier. Through these two witnesses and messengers of Mary, this gives proof that God doesn't always choose the righteous to disseminate His gospel message of love. Our Lady, like Christ did, leaves the 99 to go looking for the lost sheep. And when they are found, she straightens them up and makes them who they were meant to be. And so it is the same with ourselves. The Blessed Mother continually calls us back into the true fold, and being a mother, she gives us a little lecture but always promises graces if only we obey her requests. So the next time you are in Rome or plan to make a trip in Rome, make sure to come and visit these two beautiful Marian shrines in the Eternal City. Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception, pray for us. For more similar content, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button on Anton on the Go. God bless and Ave Maria.